Just really wanted to see what options were out there. If you're currently renting, and so it's much more difficult to save the deposit. If you're sort of starting from scratch and starting to plan, where really you need to look financially to whether or not there's a 100% mortgage out there, or if you actually do need something, and if so, what sort of level of deposit are they looking at now?
Interesting question, which we'll take, because there is help that we can discuss now as well for people who've got small deposits. We'll start with you, Craig. Is there such a thing as a 100% mortgage anymore?
Not that I'm aware of. So certainly none of the main big high street lenders do 100% mortgages. A few of them will do 5% deposit mortgages, which they'll do on their own in some of the smaller building societies, where you only have to build up a 5% deposit. And then the big thing at the moment is the government Help to Buy scheme, which quite a few of the lenders are taking part in. The government basically indemnifies the lender if there's any issues. So it's a kind of transaction between the lender and the government. It's not something that the borrower has to get involved in. So there's various schemes at a 5% deposit mortgage, but like I say, you pretty much, for most lenders, you'll need at least 5%. Clearly, the more you can put in, so it tends to be there's different rates, and the more you put in, the better the rate gets. So if you can put in 10%, you'll find that the mortgage rate will go down by possibly up to 1%. And then again, 85% is another place where the rates change, and they come down continually down to about, if you were lucky enough to have a 40% deposit, then the rates get really cheap. So one of the benefits of saving a bigger deposit is you'll normally get a cheaper rate, but it all depends on how long you want to wait, what type of house you want to buy, etc.
Help to Buy has made a big difference, hasn't it? I mean, a lot of people have rushed to take advantage of it.
Absolutely, it's been an incredible scheme which people were very sceptical about, and even the first couple of sets of figures that have come out are really encouraging that it is helping people.
You'd probably get a better rate if you went through Help to Buy, would you, instead of taking a 95% mortgage?
Well, let me just clarify on Help to Buy Part 1, which came out last April. Is basically only available on new build houses, so basically new build houses or flats. And that's the shared equity element where you put 5% in, the government puts up to another 20% in, and then the lender lends 75%. And the advantage of that is it allows you to buy a new build house, which is great, but also your mortgage payments tend to be fairly low because the bit that the government's lent you, the 20%, you don't pay any interest on until after 5 years. So actually, say you buy a house for £100,000, you need to put £5,000 in, the government put 20% in, and the lender put 75% in. You're only paying interest rates on 75,000 rather than normally you'd be paying on 95,000. So it can make it quite affordable, although you do have to be prepared after 5 years, you do have to start paying interest on the 20% part. So that was the first scheme, Help to Buy 1, last April, which is new build only. Then the bit that's getting a lot of publicity at the moment is the second part of Help to Buy, which is the 5% deposit mortgage. And that's available on all homes. That's new build, it's kind of second-hand homes. It's not just for first-time buyers, it's also for people to move home. It's available for properties up to £600,000, but clearly you've got to have a lot of money to be a first-time buyer buying a £600,000 house, but believe it or not, they do exist. And the difference with that scheme is there's no government, the government don't own any of the house. So basically you put your 5% deposit in, the lender puts the 95% deposit in, put the 95% loan in, you pay on the full 95% interest rates and you pay that back over time, and there's no government involvement. The only government involvement is if you were to default, so if you couldn't pay the mortgage back and the lender were to lose money, the government would pay that money back. So it basically insures the lender. And the reason the government did that is 95% mortgages have long been part of the lending kind of picture. It's only been the last few years since the credit crunch that lenders have been more cautious because of all the problems they had and started basically only lending to 90%. So the government said, well, actually, we think we've got lots of first-time buyers who can't get into the market because they can't save up the deposit. So actually, if you start lending to 95%, we'll kind of insure part of it to make sure that you don't lose money. Obviously, the lender pays a fee for that, so it's a bit like an insurance product. But yeah, so there's two different parts to Help to Buy, so it's important you kind of understand if you're talking to your mortgage provider or a house seller or a new build buyer, you understand which one is doing.
Miles, it's popular, it's new, so maybe we haven't seen any of the pitfalls yet, but are there things to be wary of in Help to Buy, reasons maybe not to rush into it?
If we look at the new home scheme, obviously, as Craig said, whilst it's a great scheme for a home buyer, if you've got stretched affordability, then a 20% interest-free loan from the government, something to consider, but you obviously have to start paying interest on that in 5 years. And if property prices don't go up, then as well you could be trapped in that property because you obviously don't own as much of the equity as you would do. It's been massively popular. Some developers have effectively sold out of their developments because of it. It has, to a degree, lessened the negotiating power of a buyer because obviously developers are selling those properties more quickly, and you are restricted to a new build property. So with the Help to Buy Phase 2 on existing property, obviously it gives you a lot wider market to look at. But the great thing is there's evidence already that it's started to create greater competition in the 5% deposit market, and that's really the purpose of Help to Buy. If it could be ended early, it's scheduled to last for 3 years, then I think everybody happy that the mortgage market is functioning again, and there are 95% loan-to-value competitive mortgages out there. So,
Miles, we had a very specific question about Help to Buy. It came from Emma via Twitter, and she says she wants to use Help to Buy to build an extension and sell in 6 months. Are there any terms and conditions that would prevent her from doing this?
let's assume that it's phase 2 of Help to Buy and it's existing property that she wants to extend, then no, it's just Help to Buy. Phase 2 is just like a traditional mortgage. No caveats attached at all.
You don't have to stay for a certain amount of time. You don't have.
You can't own another property though, can you?
You don't have to be just a first-time buyer, and another misnomer, but you can't own another property.
Either in this country or abroad.
Yeah.
Which not many people know.
And is that true of both the Help to Buy schemes?
Yes, absolutely.
It is, yeah.
Those that are going to be helped by Help to Buy and it helps them get onto the housing ladder, they're actually going to love Help to Buy. There's people, politicians, economists, bigger picture saying how this is a bad thing. But the irony is, once you've actually bought your first home, you do actually want it to go up in value as well.